Hello, I'm Ben McKecken from Hope Mornings. Welcome to Money, Faith and Finance, alongside Pete Burrows from Lower, Russell and Farr, accountant with individuals and small businesses, and basically your favourite accountant. Now, Pete Burrows, what do your kids need to know about money?
Everything? That's a big concept.
All right, done. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, and I've said this before, 1 out of 1 people in the world need to understand and deal with money. So kids are part of that. So kids are going to have to get across money. They're going to have to understand how to earn it, how to save it, how to invest it. They're probably going to lose some of it. So yeah, kids need to learn all of that at some stage.
Let me get more specific then and more personal, because this will help me out, let alone everybody else who's in the same sort of position as I've got 2 daughters, 8 and 10. Therefore,
they're strange names.
They 8 and 10.
Yeah, it's like,
we got them from a book.
They won't age well.
And but they are aging, and they're heading towards, not yet, but they will be, teenagers. So what do my kids need to know now before they get to the teen years? You've got a couple of kids. They are in their teens and beyond. Teach us, oh wise one, what kids before their teens need to know about money.
I think we probably could have taught our kids a bit more. And I think too, you've got to balance what you teach them for the age they're at. So there's a lot of big concepts about money. I would say probably in the pre-teen years, it's a bit more about choices and understanding. Money is not unlimited. So yeah, we've all heard the old saying from, our parents or grandparents, money doesn't grow on trees.
It doesn't though, as it turns out.
I know, it is, yeah.
They were right.
Yeah. It's probably not bad to get across to your kids, mum and dad have got money, the family pays bills, we do some things, but there's some things we just can't do. So if nothing else, get them to realise money isn't limitless and there's trade-offs with money. For everything we do, there might be something we can't do.
We try to do that in our household along the lines of what you just described there. It's a lot more difficult nowadays than
very conceptual.
It seemed to be. Well, now that there's so much less cash around, it's a bigger challenge to demonstrate to kids the value and even the amount that you have. And when you say stuff like, we don't have enough to pay for this now, they just think that you do because you've got this magical
card. Go to the ATM,
card.
go to the hole in the wall, or go to your phone and the money comes out of your phone.
That's right. Like they never see a transaction of something going out that you're having to hand over and not take back.
Yes.
Did you find with your kids that made it a challenge for them to cement some of the basic principles of you have money, you spend it, and therefore it's gone?
Yeah, look, I think it made it a bit conceptual for us as the adults because we like the visual, here's my wallet. But I realised kids these days have phones and devices. So visual for them is seeing the app. They can see on the app. So by their token, they didn't need to see a $50 note. If they can see it on their app or their phone, they're happy. So one person's visual is not the next generation's.
But my daughters, who you're right, are amazingly named 8 and 10.
Yeah,
they do not yet have devices.
Yes, yeah.
They don't have access to apps. We've got them.
They're still relying on you.
One of those kids banking app things that we show them from time to time about how their various savings are going. Those things are quite good. There's a whole bunch of them from Kit through to Spriggy that you can check out. And they've got great ways of breaking down what you're saving or spending or giving, all that sort of stuff. That's cool. But it's not like they're looking at that all the time. And they're also not yet at the point where they're going out themselves on a regular basis and buying whatever they want.
Spending money, yeah. Look, I think they're probably old enough, and I think my wife did remind me of this, is we did set up bank accounts for them when they were similar age to your girls.
Dolomites?
Yeah, just sort of, I can't even remember what the CommBank version was, but it was similar. We were going to go away on a trip, and we said, look, we'll put your pocket money and birthday money in these accounts for the year, and then when we go away, you've got your own spending money. We'd put a little debit card linked to it. So I think at least setting up the bank account started the process. We had to go to the branch, had to get their ID, and it gave them an account number, which I could then see under my internet banking. It was linked. So it's a hack for most parents out there. When your kids are under 18, you're probably going to be able to access their bank accounts anyway, and you're going to be able to see them. So it actually came in handy at several stages to be able to see how much money the kids had in the bank.
But how difficult have you and your wife found it to keep pace with all the changes that have been going on in the world, including how we get and how we use money? When you're trying to talk to your kids about all the various ways as a teenager that you can access money, has it been hard to keep pace with the big changes?
I think I've kept the same platform in the sense of a bank account is still a bank account. I can still see how much they've got in the bank. So that part is a good thing.
Have you tried to cement in your kids that basic pillar of savings?
You've got to at least have a bank account. I think the hard part is there's so many other inputs to your child's life, especially as they become teens and start looking further afield than mum and dad for inspiration and ideas, is they will be taught about things from a variety of sources. And part of that will include what to spend money on. They got more messages at them than ever about things you could buy and so many choices. So that part has been challenging, is just, for argument's sake, when my children set up, Afterpay accounts, they didn't have to come and ask me for that. They didn't have to fill in a manual form and come and get me to sign it.
Oh, there's no adult, if you're under 18, you need an adult.
No, and they were adults when they did it, but I guess what I'm saying is same with an Uber Eats account. They just set it up on their phone in like a minute or two. Like, it was a very quick, seamless process.
Which might be a good thing for parents like myself to understand now as we head into that world, that it is possible. I'm not trying to say my daughters are dodgy or your children are, but to be aware
pretty much that's the way I heard it. So
that's that it's possible for kids, teens, to be able to access, set up all these sorts of accounts that now you're saying this to me. I hadn't even looked into some of this. So I didn't even think that was necessarily possible.
And they're not bad in and of themselves. I think the only thing I've noticed is there's so much less of a physical presence to money and finance these days. So like, by not having to go into a bank and not having to get your parent to fill in a form and not having had a wallet and a savings account.
Yeah, do your kids even have an actual wallet, a physical wallet?
My oldest son doesn't. My younger son likes one because it's a bit retro, but my oldest son just has everything loaded on his phone.
It's like what they did in the black and white days.
Yeah, he like opens up his wallet. I think what we've lost with having all this online and virtual stuff is we've lost some of the gatekeepers. And what I mean by gatekeeper is you had to come and have a conversation with someone or go and interact with someone, and they might have helped you out or saved you from a mistake. And what we've probably had now is you could just go and choose to buy a share. You could go and set up an Afterpay account. You could set on an online betting account. You could get an Uber Eats account and rack up a lot of money on it. You can do those things incredibly easy with little to zero visibility to your parents. So I think that part has probably put a bit more risk on the shoulders of young adults, because they can do this so much stuff with very little transparency about it.
And do you think parents now of kids our age should be investing more directly in talking with your kids about the use of money? What I'm particularly thinking about is when my parents were raising us, we just saw them using cash and could work out then that maths, which is kind of boring in the classroom, is practically useful in the real world, because when you want that ice cream that costs $4 and you've got a $10 note, well, then you have to get $6 change. Like you can see maths happening before your eyes. With cash now, that's virtually
We've lost
removed.
That ability to know.
And I wonder what kids, like, we've spent some time, and I'm not sure if it's totally landed yet with our daughters, about some of the actual interaction that's happening here with cash, with currency transaction. Like, do we need to go back to that and keep affirming that for kids, that you need to understand that this is actual maths and this is really happening?
Yeah, you need to understand it's a real cost. Just because we might pay for it in a way that's convenient and mum and dad just point their phone at the terminal and it happens, it's still come out of, I guess, knowing where the money comes from. So I guess probably, one of the best things we've ever done is work. And one of the best things we probably ever did for our kids was encourage them to get part-time jobs. So pretty much when they were 14, they all went and got jobs.
What's good about that? Like, why should I talk to my daughters about that?
I think it sets them up in a sense that, okay, there's going to be a stage where perhaps if I want more than the basic stuff mum and dad give me, and I don't mean basic in that it's bad, I just mean clothes, shoes, going out, those sort of things. There's a certain age where parents will pay for that via pocket money or just an allowance. But beyond that, there's a sense that if I want more things in life or I want to start gaining some independence, I have to do that by working, and you have to work to get things generally. So I've noticed myself, and probably with clients and clients' kids, the later they put off joining the workforce, they have a bit of a steeper learning curve. If they haven't had to work, make some money, lose some money, waste some money, all those things are great lessons. And the earlier you start, the better, because it's probably meant our kids have been able to make mistakes while they're still under the safe umbrella of mum and dad.
When it comes to money and kids, we had a great conversation on a previous episode of Money, Faith and Finance about adult kids paying board and should they, and how much. It was controversial, and it's been, though, the most successful episode. Thank you very much for listening to it. If you haven't, go and check it out, Money, Faith and Finance. Should your adult kids pay board? We got into that. Also in the back catalogue of Money, Faith and Finance, wherever you're joining us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, go and check out all the previous episodes that will helpfully, we hope, feed into these sort of conversations you have in your household about money and the motivation behind it, including how you share that with kids. And you shared a little bit earlier, Pete, that you might have done things differently, or you've looked back and thought maybe we should have done some things differently. What sort of things?
Look, I think probably talked about it a bit earlier, like the stage.
How early?
Not too early, because I just
What's not too early?
I think your aptly named daughters 8 and 10 is probably a good age.
Okay.
They're old enough to understand bigger concepts.
I'm not an accountant though, so like how do I run the accounting seminar
look, it's ironic for an accountant. I don't really like talking about money, and probably at home I realise once you're a grown-up, you're a grown-up forever. So I probably held off overburdening our children with complicated discussions about finance and stressing them out about money before they need to. You know, they're going to be grown-ups for a long time. We don't need to burden our children with every money problem and every finance issue that exists. So I probably erred on the side of maybe less disclosure. And you never know how much of what your kids glean from you is just by your behaviour. So they understand that their mother and I, we work, you know, we have a house, we have a loan, we've had holidays, but they know we work hard for them, and they know that we've got investments. So we would hope that our kids would model our behaviour, not just what we say or an app or something that we told them to go learn. They would model what they've seen growing up.
You're saying then some of that is more indirect, so not just sitting down around the table and saying, look, today we're going to talk about ETFs.
Yeah, here's the budget, yeah.
But we're talking more the conversations we have as a household.
Yeah.
And in the process of life, sharing some of that.
And give them a bit of a nudge sometimes. Like, I had to nudge them into ETFs. You know, they'd had some savings from the jobs. They'd saved up and bought cars, which is good. They got a little bit of extra money. I'm like, okay, well, let's go invest it. Don't just leave it in a savings account. Have you thought about ETFs? You know, like sort of had to give them a bit of a nudge. As with most kids, you've got to let it become their idea. You know, who wants mum and dad to come up with all the great ideas? Once it became their idea, they were on board with it. And then they controlled it. Because if the kids become adults and don't feel like they control it, well, then why am I that invested in it? If I'm just doing what mum and dad told me, how do I know it's what's best for me? So they need to educate themselves and have a try themselves. And that's sort of worked for our kids with ETFs.
Educating themselves surely is way easier nowadays with all the access we have to everything from 30-second videos to all sorts of online courses. Yep. Subscribe to my
podcast. They have learned a lot, ironically, from the podcast. They're like, geez, we didn't know that, Dad.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But you can subscribe to all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So is it even irrelevant now for me as a parent to bother investing in 8 and 10, because can't they just go and click on someone's YouTube channel and hey presto?
They can. I think the problem is, and it's probably the problem with the internet, and I will sound like an old person yelling at clouds now, is there's no like filter on it in terms of like
there isn't.
I know it's you know, like, is it someone that's sort of selling a product or selling an idea? You know, what's the track record of it? So there's a lot of information out there and a lot of data. Is it necessarily what they need? So I would think take it all in with a grain of salt. You might glean some things from it. And then I would say stress test it against, talk to your friends, talk to relatives, talk to adults, talk to other people in your life to work out, I saw this app, I saw this thing online, I saw this course, what does it actually mean? You know,
are you talking then to the child or to the parent?
I think to both, but I think with kids, they often don't come back and ask us what we think. They will just go and do something. You know, I didn't know about Afterpay till I asked my oldest child about it. So
really?
Yeah. Like I've obviously known about Afterpay, but I haven't got it myself personally. You know, I'm old school. I got a credit card, but I needed to understand why young people like it. You know, like I need to understand that they don't want a credit card. They don't need a credit card. They use debit cards.
So is that also a good thing for parents to do, including of kids my age? Like start asking them what they know and or what's in and around them, what they've seen,
I think
what
ask
they've
them
heard
what
about.
they know and also to understand what's out there. You know, so I'm sort of like Afterpay, it's just something in the background. I'm like, what's Zip? Okay, Zip's like Afterpay. You know, like understand the products. Even if you're not using them, I think it hurts to be adjacent to them to understand what they can offer. And I guess, you know, tips and traps, as we've often talked about, is for every pro of something, there's probably a con. So, you know, Afterpay, my son said, yep, if you pay it, it's all good. But if you don't, well, it's not just an interest charge, it's a fee. And, you know, and the fee, from what he told me, could end up being more than what you spent on the product. You know, and it's obviously something that is targeted to young people. He goes to music concerts. He said now a lot of his friends won't buy tickets to a concert or a festival unless Afterpay is offered as an option, because the amount people have been asked to spend, they want to apportion that cost over a few payments. People won't buy unless it's offered under Afterpay. Now, that's something I would never have thought of. I'm just like, you pay for it, you know, you put it on your credit card. But young people these are the conversations and the way of doing finance that young people are doing that is different than what we grew up with.
How deliberate do I need to be about all of this, what I look into, how much I do or don't say to my daughters?
I think kids will always probably be a little bit reticent to share everything with their parents, especially mistakes. The hard part about money is mistakes are very black and white. You know, like you bought a share, you lost some money. It's very transparent. It's very obvious. So I just think you want to keep open conversations. When you talked earlier about what's a good resource, what's a good tool, your mistakes are often your best tool. Mistakes are your best resource because you can learn from them. You know exactly what went wrong after the fact when we're all smarter and wiser, and you know what you would do differently next time. So I just think keep it non-judgmental, keep the conversation lines open, and then when you see there's a learning opportunity, lean into it.
I love it, Pete, how we get to the show me the money moment, and yet it seems like that was the show me the money moment.
Yeah,
and here I am arriving a little bit later. But, man, hang on a minute. I'm speaking for you.
Please
show me the money, Pete. If you had to summarize all of this, what is it?
It would be for young people. 1 out of 1 people has to learn and deal with money in their life. So young people are not exempt from that. The earlier you can start, the better. Do it with no judgment. Do it with fun. Have a bit of a laugh. And your best lesson is with your own money.
It would be great to hear from everybody, especially if you're like Pete, you've got older kids and you've tried and tested some stuff. The Money, Faith and Finance Facebook group, because this conversation was about preparing people just like me, but there are loads of others out there, Pete, who maybe even did a better job than you of actually...
I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Maybe not over-preparing, just actually preparing
your
kids for money and the world. Would love to hear from you, especially the stuff that worked, but also the mistakes. If you're willing to share them, would be great to learn.
It's a safe space, people. Circle of trust.
And that will help us not to make the same ones. Thank you very much. We'd really appreciate it. Money, Faith and Finance Facebook group. Subscribe and share and star rate, all that sort of stuff. Make sure all the Money, Faith and Finance episodes get out there because Pete and I are here. Tell your kids.
Yeah, it's a resource. Tick.
And we should say another hello to your kids. Thanks very much for listening. And also get your kids onto this and their friends and share the Money, Faith and Finance love, because we love to sit here banging on about all sorts of things to 100%. Do with the practical and profound of money. Because we're hoping to be able to help out you and your household and all those other households that don't yet know about Money, Faith and Finance, but you're going to help them find it by sharing the love around. Thank you very much. Pete Burrows, next time you will still be Pete Burrows, who is also accused of being an accountant.
Guilty.
Lower Russell and Farr at Penrith. Individuals, small businesses. Will you accept any others that don't fit into that category?
It's very niche, isn't it? I love all people, but I prefer businesses. I specialize in businesses.
But it says individuals.
It does. Well, every business has individuals, but I probably specialize in my sweet spot would be looking after people that have a business.
I see what you did there. That's very creative accounting. I'm Ben McKechnie from Hope Mornings. See you next time.